Story 1. This happened back in 7th grade. A few weeks into the school year, flyers go around for the school's first-time hockey team. I was never into hockey, but since I didn't play football and we had no soccer team, I signed up, thinking it would be fun. Since so few signed up, there weren't any tryouts. I quickly realized I was the only girl, which I was fine with. I knew I could keep up. I was fast and strong. Everything is going great. I'm having a blast, making friends. Fast forward to our 6th. I'm playing center. Things go great for the first quarter. It's when I take my helmet off does crap hit the fan. An entitled mother for the opposing team starts screaming that I can't be there. It's wrong for a girl to play a boy sport. BTW, there were girls on the other team as well. Normally, I'm not fazed by insults. Years of bullying made me pretty numb to it. I just stared at her from across the court and said, "Why don't you stop me?" I knew she was an adult, and that probably wasn't the wisest thing to say, but I was pissed. No one was going to tell me that I can't play. I put my helmet back on and go back to the center, and the second quarter starts. We scored 2 points and are ahead of the other team. Halftime starts, which means a 15-minute break to go to the bathroom and grab a quick snack. There are 2 sets of bathrooms, one for the players and coaches, the other for everyone in the stands. I'm in the bathroom just finishing up and washing my hands when the entitled mother barges in. I have my hockey stick with me because it was specially made and I didn't want it out of sight. This is what follows. "Me, you can't be in here. This is reserved for players and coaches only." Entitled mother, you aren't a player. You're a girl. Girls can't play sports. Me, yes we can. Now please move. Halftime is almost over. She blocks my path by standing in front of the door. She yanks my hockey stick from hands and breaks it over her knee. I cry out and get angry. Me, are you crazy? That cost $200, and it was mine. Entitled mother just smiles smugly. I reach to get my now broken hockey stick back. She hits me with one of the pieces and sends me stumbling back. I catch my balance and try to get past her. She swung the piece at me again, harder this time. I land in one of the stalls, my head just barely missing the toilet. I try to get up, but she keeps me down with her foot. Remember how I said I was strong? Well, with her it didn't matter. She outweighed me by about 200 pounds. I was barely 90 pounds. She grabbed one of my legs and held it against the frame of the stall. She moved to the outside of the stall, took hold of the door, and slammed it into my leg 3 times in quick precision. The third slam broke my leg. I screamed out in horror and pain. I vaguely remember her leaving. I do remember how calm she was about the whole thing. She kept that smug smile the whole time. I was found pretty quickly. My screams helped that. I was also the only girl, and it was the first place my coach looked. Once he found me, he called 911 and tried to keep me focused on anything else but my leg. If anyone is wondering where my mother was during all this, she was at home sick. I'm taken to the hospital. My mother is called. I was on crutches for roughly 12 weeks. The rest of the game was canceled and rescheduled. Entitled mother is arrested for assaulting a minor and destruction of private property. My teammates pulled their allowances together to get me a new hockey stick. Even though I was benched the rest of the season, I got to use it for the next 4 seasons I played. I believe she is still serving time. Also, I became great friends with her son, who always told her about me when he went to visit her, proving to her that girls can play sports. I would have kept playing, but life had other plans. Thanks for listening. Story 2. I am a 17-year-old male and recently received my first debit card. I had been asking my father for one for quite some time, and he finally agreed to give me one on my birthday. I work part-time at a fast food chain and deposit all my earnings into this card. I am always cautious with it and ensure it is with me whenever I go out. My father gave me this card as a way to test my financial responsibility and see how I would manage money as I grow older. To provide some context, my family is not wealthy. We are financially stable but do not consider ourselves affluent. I use the money I earn for personal expenses, which helps reduce the financial strain on my working parents. My expenses usually include purchasing games for my computer, gifts, and occasional treats for myself. I am also saving up to buy a gaming console. One day, I was at the mall with friends, walking around and browsing different stores. Suddenly, one of my friends, whom I'll call Jenna, started feeling lightheaded and unwell. This had happened before, as she often felt nauseous if she walked too much without taking breaks. While my two other friends helped her sit down and calm her nerves, I ran to a nearby supermarket to buy her some water and pain relief medication. Most supermarkets in my area sell such basic over-the-counter items. At the supermarket, I quickly grabbed the items and rushed to the checkout area. The regular registers were busy, but I noticed that the self-checkout lanes were nearly empty. I headed to one of the machines, scanned my items, and pulled out my debit card to pay. As I bagged the items, I tried to slip the card back into my pocket, but I must have missed, and the card fell to the ground. However, I did not notice it at the time because the place was noisy, and I was in a hurry. I ran back to my friends to check on Jenna, only to realize that my debit card was missing. Panicked, I hurried back to the self-checkout area. There, I saw a woman scanning several expensive items, including luxury foods and personal care products. I'll refer to her as the entitled woman. To my dismay, I saw that she was holding my debit card in her hand. I politely tapped her shoulder and asked for my card back. She turned to me with an expression of annoyance and waved the card in front of me, saying, "Step back, kid. This is mine. Why would someone your age even have something like this?" I am 6 feet 1 inch tall, but have a youthful face, which probably made her think I was younger than I actually am. I responded, "Ma'am, that card belongs to me. Please return it." Instead of complying, she ignored me and attempted to use the card to pay for her items. I glanced at the register screen and was alarmed to see that her total was over $200. Since my card had contactless payment capabilities, she didn't need to swipe or insert it to complete the transaction. Without raising my voice, I firmly placed my hand over the card reader and said, "Please hand over my card now." My tone was stern enough to convey the seriousness of the situation without coming across as threatening. What happened next was astonishing and embarrassing. The entitled woman dramatically fell to the ground, shielding herself with her arms, and began yelling, "Thief! Thief! He's trying to rob me! He hit me to steal my card! Help!" Her cries immediately drew the attention of nearby shoppers. At this moment, a security guard approached us. He appeared calm and professional and began asking what had happened. The entitled woman quickly directed his attention to her and began spewing hateful comments, some of which were directed at my ethnicity, as I am Middle Eastern. To my surprise, the security guard switched to speaking in our shared native language, asking me for my side of the story. This took both me and the woman by surprise since he appeared to be a local resident. I explained everything to the security guard while the entitled woman continued muttering angrily. After hearing my account, the guard asked both of us to accompany him to the back office so they could review the security footage. Other guards escorted us to the security room, where we waited in awkward silence. After about 5 minutes, the initial guard returned and demanded that the entitled woman hand over the debit card. The footage had confirmed my version of events. At this point, the woman broke into tears and started pleading. "I'm a single mother, and I needed the money," she cried, attempting to justify her actions. It was clear to me that this was a ploy to gain sympathy and avoid consequences. The security team confiscated the card and verified that it was indeed mine, as my name matched both the card and my identification. The entitled woman was escorted out of the store separately from me. Before I left, the security guard asked if I wanted to press charges. Without hesitation, I said yes. I could not allow her to escape accountability for her actions, especially since she showed no remorse for trying to take advantage of me. This incident still lingers in my memory, not because of the confrontation itself, but because of the audacity of the entitled woman. It was a stark reminder of the lengths some people will go to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Story 3. This story takes me back to my days in the Navy, stationed at the submarine base in Connecticut. It's one of those life-altering experiences that has stayed with me, and while it ended with justice, the scars it left are undeniable. This is a tale of friendship, resilience, and the actions of a compassionate chaplain who ensured justice was served. I had a friend named Bill, whom I met during boot camp. We ended up in the same class during a school, the Navy's job training program. Bill wasn't the most physically fit guy. He was short, a little chubby, and wore glasses, but he was incredibly smart. As a sonar technician, he would have been phenomenal, thanks to his practical mindset and strong problem-solving skills. While in school, we had a couple of instructors who took their roles as petty officers way too far. They were obsessed with physical fitness, even though our job was highly technical and more about math and computers than physical strength. Despite this, these petty officers pushed everyone hard during physical training 3 times a week. Most of us managed to keep up, but Bill struggled. Although he met the Navy's minimum fitness requirements, he wasn't as extreme as these 2 officers wanted. Their response? Relentless bullying. They called him lazy, mocked his weight, and even told him he should take his own life. It was appalling and unwarranted, as Bill was passing his assessments and putting in genuine effort. One day, Bill injured his knee during physical training. He followed protocol and visited the base doctor, who put him on light duty to recover. Bill had the necessary paperwork, but the petty officers ignored it, threatening to kick him out of the program if he didn't continue the workouts. Feeling immense pressure, Bill kept pushing himself, worsening his injury and deteriorating his mental health. During this time, mental health resources were limited. The only available support was through the chaplain, a religious leader who also served as a high-ranking officer. Our chaplain, a kind and compassionate woman who held the rank of captain, was known for her understanding nature. Bill decided to schedule a meeting with her, hoping to find some relief. However, when he informed the petty officers about his meeting, they berated him further, calling him weak and worthless. They convinced him the chaplain wouldn't care and promised to make his life even harder if he went. Feeling hopeless, Bill canceled the meeting. As if his day couldn't get worse, Bill's girlfriend broke up with him that night. This emotional blow, combined with the relentless bullying, pushed him to the edge. At 3 a.m., I received a call from Bill. I couldn't hear anything on the other end, and after a few attempts to get a response, I assumed it was an accidental or drunk dial. Unfortunately, I was wrong. The next day, chaos erupted. Bill's ex-girlfriend called me and a few others to inform us that he was in the hospital. He had attempted to take his own life by cutting his throat. Miraculously, the cold weather caused his blood to clot externally, creating a makeshift barrier that kept him alive long enough for emergency medical services to save him. He missed his carotid artery by about a millimeter. When we rushed to the hospital, we passed the chaplain in the hallway. She briefly informed us that Bill would recover and added, with visible anger, that she wouldn't forget what had happened. For someone so sweet and personable, the raw fury in her eyes was startling. We later learned that she was determined to hold the petty officers accountable. A week later, we were called in by the chief of the training command, who wanted to ensure there were no other unresolved issues with these instructors. Several of us shared instances of their dishonesty and abusive behavior, adding fuel to the fire. The next day, the petty officers were gone, replaced by new instructors. Curious, I stopped by to ask the chaplain what had happened. She revealed that she had reported their actions directly to the admiral in charge of the base, demanding their immediate discharge. Her reasoning was clear. They had convinced a sailor not to seek help, directly contributing to his attempt on his own life. The admiral acted swiftly, and both petty officers were discharged with other than honorable status. This type of discharge effectively ruined their lives. They lost all military benefits, housing, and any chance of working for companies with Department of Defense contracts. One of them had served 18 years and was 2 years from retirement. The other had 12 years in. Both lost everything. Bill made a full recovery and received a medical discharge for his knee injury. This honorable discharge ensured he received E5 pay, full benefits, and access to counseling. He returned to his home state and began rebuilding his life. Though we eventually lost touch, I saw on social media that he became a police officer, got married, and seems to be thriving. It's a testament to his strength and resilience that he turned his life around after such a dark chapter. This experience taught me the importance of compassion, accountability, and standing up for others. The chaplain's determination to seek justice for Bill is something I will always remember. While the actions of those petty officers were reprehensible, the support Bill received from the Navy in the aftermath gave him a second chance. Bill's story is a reminder that kindness and advocacy can make all the difference in someone's life, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Story 4. My wife and I purchased our first home in early 2021, and the timing could not have been better. The house, located in an older neighborhood, was a newly constructed property. Before the house was built, the plot was covered with dense overgrowth consisting of trees, bushes, vines, and other vegetation. When we moved in, our backyard was a blank canvas needing a lot of attention. We discovered that we had about 100 feet of depth to work with, but much of it was covered in vines, bushes, small trees, and even bamboo. To give some context, our property is shaped like a parallelogram, not a perfect rectangle, which made the landscaping process a bit more challenging. My wife and I worked diligently to clear the space. After removing all the overgrowth in the central area, we discovered that we had an additional 25 feet of usable backyard. We began clearing the overgrown sides of the yard and stopped when we reached a survey stake on the left side of our property. On the right side, however, we encountered a makeshift fence made from tree limbs and other debris, constructed by our neighbors. We decided to halt work on that side, as we had not yet introduced ourselves to the neighbors and wanted to avoid any potential conflicts. Months passed and spring arrived. The patchwork fence on the right side had collapsed, and most of the debris had been cleared away. I started mowing the lawn and decided to continue clearing the overgrowth. After a long day of work, I managed to remove a significant amount of brush and created a massive pile at the back of the yard. The following day, a removal company took away the debris in 4 truckloads. The next week, while mowing the grass, I noticed that rocks and sticks had been laid down deep into my yard, approximately 15 feet beyond where I believed the property line was. This was curious, so I began investigating. I reviewed the original survey conducted when our house was built and walked along the property lines, measuring the distances. The front and back stakes aligned perfectly, and the survey indicated a distance of 115 feet between the back left and back right stakes. Using both a long tape measure and a walking measurer, I found the length was accurate within a 3-foot margin. Despite these findings, our neighbors seemed unapproachable. The husband was polite but quiet, while the wife ignored any attempts at a friendly greeting. I decided to move the rocks and sticks to the back of my yard and continued clearing the brush. As I worked, the male neighbor approached me and said, "Just so you know, you removed our privacy plants that shielded us from the people behind us. This is all our yard." I explained, "Our survey shows the property line extends to these stakes, which measure 115 feet apart. The measurements from the front stakes to the back also align with this survey." He countered by claiming his wife worked for the city and had access to precise property boundaries, stating their plot extended 15 feet into what I believed was my yard. I offered to split the cost of a professional survey, but he declined and returned inside. 2 weeks later, I discovered bricks, rocks, and spray-painted flags marking what they believed to be their property line 15 feet into my yard. When I knocked on their door, there was no response, even though I could see them through the window. Frustrated, I moved the debris again and decided to mark the property line with string, running it from the front to the back stakes. The following week, I found the string cut and lying inside my yard. When I asked the neighbor why, he claimed his mower accidentally ran over it. Realizing the issue wouldn't resolve itself, I hired a surveyor. Quotes ranged from $550 to over $4,000. I chose the original survey company for $550. To my surprise, the survey revealed that my yard extended 4 feet further into their property in some areas. Apparently, an old rock wall once marked the boundary, but when the builder purchased the lot, they bought a portion of the neighbor's yard to avoid dealing with the wall. I installed outdoor cameras to monitor the property line and went on vacation. Upon returning, I discovered that the stakes had been removed. Reviewing the footage, I saw the neighbor's wife taking the stakes. I left a note explaining the legal implications of removing survey markers and provided my phone number. A few days later, I confronted the husband. He initially denied knowledge of the stakes, but admitted fault when I mentioned the footage. He apologized via text, which contradicted his earlier claim of not receiving my note. I demanded they pay for a new survey. Although they resisted, I threatened to pursue legal action. Eventually, they handed me $900 in small bills to cover the cost. However, the survey price had increased due to delays, so I contacted the original company again, explaining that we had resolved our differences. They agreed to redo the survey for the original price of $550. With the new survey complete, I installed a proper fence and planted trees along both sides of my yard for added privacy. Based on the furniture I've seen them removing, it seems the neighbors are planning to move. While the situation was frustrating, it taught me the importance of standing firm and documenting everything in disputes like this. Story 5. This incident happened a few years ago, but I'm still dealing with the aftermath. At the time, my boyfriend, now husband, and I went to a supermarket to pick up a few items. I was dressed in a feminine outfit, wearing a dress and heels, which made it clear that I wasn't an employee of the store. While my boyfriend was in a different aisle, I was browsing through the shelves quietly, minding my own business. Suddenly, someone grabbed my elbow sharply, nearly causing me to stumble. It was a woman, who I'll refer to as the entitled mother, glaring at me with her teenage child standing behind her, visibly embarrassed. "Where do I find the wine?" she demanded. Caught off guard, I replied, I don't know. You should ask an employee. Please let go of me." She gave me a disapproving look and snapped, "You are an employee. Just stop pretending and help me, or I'll get the manager." I politely told her to leave me alone and walked away, sensing this situation might escalate. Moments later, something hit me on the head hard. At that instant, I genuinely thought my life was over. I was disoriented, unable to move even though I thought I was trying. The only thing keeping me from collapsing was my grip on the shelf. There was loud yelling around me, but I couldn't focus on the voices. Eventually, I lost the battle to stay conscious and passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My boyfriend, who had witnessed the aftermath, filled me in on what had happened. After I walked away, the entitled mother became so enraged that she threw a glass jar at my head with astonishing accuracy, causing severe injuries, including a fractured skull. The commotion drew the attention of staff and other customers. Security detained the woman until law enforcement arrived, and my boyfriend rushed me to the hospital. Shockingly, the woman kept insisting that she was teaching me a lesson for looking down on her. Her husband and children later visited me at the hospital. It was clear they hadn't fully grasped the severity of the situation until they saw the extent of my injuries. Her husband broke down in tears, apologizing profusely and revealing that she was no longer the woman he fell in love with. Through my lawyers, I later learned that he served her with divorce papers. Her family also covered all my medical expenses without us asking, which I believe was done with sincere intentions. The woman was eventually charged and sentenced to 12 years in prison for her actions. During the trial, she showed no remorse. The only time she displayed emotion was when she broke down and blamed me for ruining her life. She never apologized or provided an explanation for her actions, leaving her motives a mystery. Her lawyers employed various tactics to delay the case, but these ultimately backfired as she had to pay for the delays. In addition to her sentence, she was ordered to pay all my legal expenses and therapy costs up front. While I didn't seek revenge, I firmly believed justice had to be served. The months following the incident were incredibly challenging. For a year, I couldn't leave my house due to an intense fear of being attacked again. Even today, I struggle to step into grocery stores, but therapy has been a tremendous help. My husband also sought therapy to cope with the trauma of seeing me injured and lying in a pool of blood, an image that haunted his nightmares for a long time. Thankfully, things are improving. My memory issues have largely resolved, and my husband's nightmares have become less frequent. Although this experience left a lasting scar, we are slowly rebuilding our lives. Amidst all this pain, there are bright spots. I am pregnant with our first child, and the thought of welcoming our little one fills me with hope and strength. I call my baby Bean, a nickname that brings a smile to my face even during difficult moments. Each day, I am reminded to embrace life with kindness and courage. Looking back, I can't help but wonder what drove the entitled mother to such rage. She had a loving family who cared for her, yet she destroyed so many lives, including her own. I'll likely never know what caused her actions, but I've learned to focus on the people and moments that bring joy and healing. To everyone who has shared their support and their own stories of resilience, thank you. Your words have been a source of strength for me, and I hope my story inspires others to persevere through life's challenges. Together, we can overcome fear and live with kindness. Edit. Commonly asked questions. Did she express remorse? No. She never apologized or showed genuine regret. During the trial, she blamed me for her circumstances and showed no accountability for her actions. How are you now? Much better, thank you. Therapy has been incredibly helpful, and I am taking things one day at a time. My husband is also doing much better, and we are both focused on moving forward. Why didn't you pursue more compensation? I didn't seek revenge, only justice. Her family covered all my medical and legal expenses, and I had strong support from my employer, who granted me paid leave. Ultimately, I wanted to close this chapter of my life and focus on healing. What happened to her family? Her husband and children were devastated. They supported me during my recovery, but distanced themselves from her after the incident. Her husband filed for divorce, and her children testified in court, but it was clear they were deeply affected by the trauma. What's next for you? My husband and I are enjoying the peace we found after years of turmoil. We're focusing on our family and looking forward to the arrival of our little one. Each day feels like a new beginning, and we are grateful for the chance to move forward. Story 6. I used to work at a medium-sized company where our department had its own supply closet. Everyone understood the rules: take only what you need, avoid hoarding, and keep the space organized. It seemed simple enough, right? Unfortunately, not for our new micromanaging office manager, referred to as Karen. Karen was excessively focused on cutting costs. Every morning, she would swoop into the supply closet like a hawk, inspecting everything meticulously. If a box of pens appeared slightly lighter than before, or if the sticky notes were not perfectly aligned, we would receive a stern email about what she called unnecessary consumption. She even introduced a sign-out sheet for supplies. If someone wanted a highlighter, they had to justify the need in writing. One day, Karen decided to escalate matters even further. She installed a lock on the supply closet and made herself the sole keeper of the key. If anyone required anything, they had to email her and wait for her approval before receiving it. This added to her already busy workload, meaning obtaining something as basic as a new pen could take hours. Productivity inevitably began to decline. This led to what we would call a harmless act of compliance. A colleague of mine, who we'll call Tom, was a bit of a prankster, but always adhered to the rules. He decided to test Karen's new system to its limits. Whenever he needed something, no matter how trivial, he sent Karen an email. If he required a single paperclip, he emailed. If his marker dried out, he emailed. When his stapler jammed, another email followed. Tom's actions inspired the rest of the team. Before long, the entire department began flooding Karen's inbox with individual supply requests. Since she insisted on personally approving every request, the volume quickly overwhelmed her. Simple approvals stretched from hours to days. Meetings were delayed because people lacked notebooks, and presentations stalled due to unavailable dry erase markers. The situation caught the attention of upper management when they noticed the department's performance metrics were rapidly declining. Upon investigating, they discovered that the supply chain chaos was at the heart of the problem. Karen defended her system, arguing it was designed to prevent wastefulness and bring structure. However, the evidence clearly showed that her excessive control was counterproductive. After an especially disastrous week, upper management intervened. They revoked Karen's authority over the supply closet, removed the lock, and eliminated the sign-out sheet. The department returned to the honor system, which had worked perfectly before Karen's arrival. Karen, now publicly humiliated, kept a much lower profile after the incident. While we may have lost a week of productivity, the satisfaction of watching Karen struggle with her own overly complicated system was well worth it. Story 7. So basically, at my town pool, they have 3 pools. There is the swimming pool, which was for lap swimming, water polo, and all those games. The second was the smallest, known as the baby pool. Since you had to be 4 to go into the swimming pool, the toddlers were allowed to play in the small, easily watchable toddler pool. The final pool is where this situation went down. The splash pool. This pool was full of cool, blue and white structures with sprayed-out water. It was the only pool that accepted water gun use, although there was peace time twice per day, toddler time, and the first hour of opening. First hour of opening is self-explanatory, but toddler time was when parents could allow their little ones to play without the fear of them being caught in the crossfire. During wars, it was typically 2 clans, which took up territory and role-played total destruction. My little brother and I usually got a good set of clansmen due to the fact we always carried big double-barreled shotguns like sprayers. Even more, the day of the encounter my friend was with us, using a big Super Soaker R with multiple firing types. We had another clansman with a basic pistol, but I played with him before and he had good tactics. On the other clan were 2 kids, Kid 1 and Kid 2, with some pretty cool Super Soakers. They needed some more people, so when 2 kids, Entitled Kid and Entitled Friend, came from the swimming pool, they handed them some basic foam push guns. Due to its soft padding, it was also used as a baton for close quarters combat, and it was always a good complementary weapon when used correctly. Of course, with our pistol-wielding clansmen, we ditched the batons. The war started, and almost immediately, the Entitled Kid and Entitled Friend charged at us, with their guns baton style. The Entitled Friend was shot in the face and started screaming. His friend got hit as well and stopped, trying to call a timeout. Their clansmen came from behind them, confused. Entitled Friend, who shot me? Friend, me. Why'd you call a timeout? Entitled Kid, because you shot my friend in the face. Little brother, why wasn't he wearing goggles? It's his fault if he didn't. Entitled Friend, shut up. You guys are stupid little jerks with your stupid guns. He started hitting my brother with his gun, and Kid 1 and Kid 2 yanked it, and the Entitled Kid's guns away. Kid 1, you guys are terrible at the game. Go away. Kid 2, you guys are also mean. We don't want babies. The Entitled Friend walked out of the pool, the kid who got hit still crying, and they walked back towards the swimming pool. We started setting up a game with 3 teams of 2. Before we started, a woman's voice yelled at us. We looked in the direction of the voice to see a fat, sluggish woman with Entitled Friend and the Entitled Kid in tow. It was the Entitled Kid's mom. Entitled Mother, who hurt my son and his friend. Me, no one. They should have been wearing goggles if they didn't want to get hit in the face. What do you mean? Why would my son be hit in the first place? We were playing with our water guns. They were on a team and were shot. That's the point of the game. No, he's lying. They shot us when we were minding our own business. Kid 1, hey, that's not true, you guys were. The Entitled Mother interrupts with, you think it's funny to attack my son? Give me your weapon, now. She tried grabbing for my gun, and my little brother just sprayed her. Her, you brat, don't touch me. Me, stay back. I started thinking of the worst thing I could say and found a good word. Me, stay back, which? Excuse me, that's it. Where are your parents? They aren't here. They dropped us off. Leave us be, or I'll spray you again. Wow, your parents aren't here to chaperone in a pool. That's very dangerous. I will call the police because I guess you are being neglected by them. She thought she had won, until she saw what me and my friend were doing. We were, on purpose, playing rock, paper, scissors. Her, what are you doing? My friend, playing a game. No, you're insulting me. The entitled mother started trudging in the water and was sprayed again by my little brother. She got up close to him and started yanking the gun away from him. Some nearby man started screaming at her, telling her to stop. She ignored him until the whistle was blown. She looked at the man, seeing him, with his shirt off and red pants which said lifeguard, and a whistle in his mouth. Entitled mother, help me. These violent children are attacking me. Lifeguard, no. They were playing with water guns. Toddler time was 1 hour ago, so there is no reason they can't play. Those boys did agree to play. I'm asking you to leave the pool, now. No, that's not fair. The lifeguard walked over to his chair and grabbed a walkie-talkie. He called for the pool management staff dude, and a minute later he was there, with 2 other lifeguards, forcing them to pick up their items, and they then kicked them out. We found 2 new kids to play with us, and continued our war until closing time.